The young man, a beacon of divine potential, possesses within him the spark of the cosmic fire. His value in society, rooted in his virility and strength, is a reflection of his spiritual power. Yet, in the modern age, this sacred flame has been buried beneath the weight of overstimulation and instant gratification. The youth of today are drowning in a sea of meaningless distraction, their souls parched for true nourishment. The modern man, once a titan among mortals, now finds himself shackled by the weight of his own existence. He is haunted by the specter of hopelessness, plagued by depression and anxiety, unable to connect with others on a meaningful level. Society has drained him of his vitality, leaving him a mere shadow of his former self. The young man of today is ashamed of his past, alienated from his ancestors, and disconnected from the spiritual world that once sustained him. In the modern era, society has likewise been misled into valuing the material world and superficial attributes, leaving women disempowered and objectified. Women are too often viewed merely as objects of desire, disregarding their divine essence and spiritual potential. This paradigm must be challenged, as it only serves to disempower women and hinder their spiritual evolution. While societal expectations and gender roles may have influenced the choices women have made regarding their career paths, it is important to recognize that there is an underlying spiritual element to this decision-making. Women have been called to pursue paths that align with their innate essence, that honor their divine nature, and that contribute to the greater good. While it is true that there are still systemic barriers that limit women's opportunities for advancement, studies have shown that women tend to choose less dangerous and physically demanding jobs, leading to a gender gap in certain industries such as construction and manufacturing. This choice is likely influenced by societal expectations and gender roles, rather than a lack of ability or desire to succeed in such fields. However, the potential for true self-fulfillment and spiritual growth is often stymied by a society that views women as nothing more than sexual objects. Young girls are taught that their value lies solely in their physical appearance, perpetuating a cycle of objectification and disempowerment. In the present age, women have been promised empowerment, yet have been failed by a society that reduces and devalues them. The modern media inundates women with images that reduce them to mere objects of pleasure, thereby reinforcing the notion that their value is solely determined by their physical appearance. Though women have made great strides in education, with females comprising the majority of college students in the United States, this progress does little to alleviate the decline in vitality and passionate fervor among women. The birth rates in the West continue to drop, with developed nations struggling to replace themselves, thus rendering the prospects of young couples to have children or marry unappealing. Meanwhile, in the East, countries that have embraced their own unique adoptions and formulations of ancient spiritual and political systems are seeing an increase in birth rates as they continue to develop. This suggests that by the time these countries become fully developed, they will possess vast human resources for labor and war. However, the media seeks to suppress this reality, denouncing it as problematic. As young girls reach adolescence, they are relentlessly indoctrinated within the school system to be obedient and subservient to authority, a virtue in which they often excel compared to their male peers. Despite earning high marks, these women are steered away from valuable skills in the home and toward careers, often without any real choice in the matter. It is not a matter of women rejecting the life of a homemaker, but rather of not having the ability to choose such a life in the first place. As a result, many young women are left to navigate college parties, stressful social situations, the burden of higher education, and the pursuit of degrees that offer little to no practical training. The plight of a woman in modern society who attains professional success in areas such as medicine, but often finds herself at a disadvantage due to the passing of her sexual prime and the dwindling prospects of bearing children, is a sobering reality. This predicament often leads to the unenviable position of being forced to choose between starting a family while grappling with burdensome debts accrued during her 20s, or eschewing motherhood entirely, and continuing to work in healthcare or other fields where her essential contributions are frequently undervalued and undercompensated. Thus, It is unsurprising that a sizable number of middle-aged women find themselves trapped in unhappy marriages. The modern era has seen the concept of marriage itself devalued, a situation which poses particular challenges for men. A significant majority of divorces are initiated by women, and men are rarely awarded custody of their children, nor is their paternity often acknowledged. This leaves men in a vulnerable position during marriage, further exacerbated by the potential loss of their financial assets. In any modern society, be it capitalist, socialist, communist, or any derivative thereof, the deprivation of financial assets can lead one to a life of misery and poverty. When a man is deprived of a significant amount of money, in addition to the loss of a loved one and possibly his children, he finds himself unable to give to the world. The loss of young, innocent love in a breakup, and the accompanying shattering of one's innocence in the face of a greater evil, is often one of the most devastating and life-changing events in a man's life. Nowadays, men are compelled to seek love and unity by appealing to women, who have adopted the ways of the modern world as taught to them by the educational system. By the time a man encounters a potential wife, she has been imbued with values instilled by both her parents and the school system. The educational system in the West is fundamentally flawed, as evidenced by its low statistical rankings and its failure to provide advantages to the naturally disadvantaged, in addition to its remarkable capacity for brainwashing. As a result, the responsibility for instilling values falls to the parents. However, how can one develop a true sense of love in a fatherless household or in a home, or rather two separate homes, separated by divorce, as is increasingly common? If young men and women, with the latter more susceptible to the Pavlovian conditioning of the modern educational system, are only taught values and virtues by their families and the educational system, and the family unit is becoming increasingly irrelevant and sometimes even cruel or abusive in this equation, where can a young person or a young couple turn to for morality? Where can a young man find the rejuvenating presence of a youthful, free, and feminine spirit to nurture the inner combativeness of his soul, when women are being conditioned to function as part of a masculine unit, devoid of social values and exposed to declining mental health conditions? The answer, in short, is that he cannot. Consequently, the modern man suffers, deprived of the love and nurturing he requires to cultivate his inner drive, but scorned and ridiculed when he seeks it in any form, accused of being deficient in his masculine essence. It is hardly surprising that his masculine essence has been lost when no father or spirit was present to foster it from the outset. Where the church once provided guidance to men on how to lead fulfilling lives, the state now seeks to disempower and emasculate them. In the pursuit of self-improvement, the path towards empowerment in a world devoid of action and energy requires a candid appraisal of the ills that afflict us. Such ills are manifold in their nature, yet remain easily identifiable to the discerning observer. Foremost amongst these ills is the scourge of addictive substances, including but not limited to tobacco, marijuana, alcohol, and hard drugs, such as cocaine and heroin. The societal and legal ramifications arising from the multi-billion-dollar trade in narcotics have led to interminable wars between governments, law enforcement agencies, and criminal syndicates, spawning innumerable conflicts, untold crimes, and countless lives cut tragically short. As some individuals prove nigh on impossible to rehabilitate, the drug trade remains an immensely lucrative and intractable issue, with most governments struggling mightily to devise viable regulatory frameworks. Hence, it is but logical to expect the trend of drug-induced degeneration to continue wreaking havoc upon communities worldwide. A secondary bane, one that has insinuated itself insidiously into our midst, is the affliction of addictive pornography. The rise of pornography as a go-to source of sexual gratification in a world where genuine intimacy and personal connections have become increasingly scarce cannot be gainsaid. Pornography has now emerged as one of the largest markets in the Western Hemisphere, offering young men in particular an unceasing supply of overstimulating sexual content. This unrelenting barrage of stimuli rewires minds for commercial gain, enervating spirits, and undermining resolve. As pornography has become more pervasive, the culture around it has grown ever more sophisticated in its machinations, seeking ever more inventive ways to stand out amidst an infinite sea of content. Predictably, pornography has deviated from the norm, becoming ever more extreme, heretical, and abusive in nature, even straining the limits of legality, all readily accessible through the vast web of the Internet. The ubiquitous presence of such content has spawned a rot within our society, once consigning it to the realm of the immoral and unspeakable, and now rendering it all too normal. It is little wonder, then, that sexual deviants and the mentally ill now find succor in the assurance that their twisted desires are but a facet of the new normal. The third malaise afflicting modern society is none other than the insidious consumption of media. This trend has captured the minds of a significant segment of the male population, who would otherwise be engrossed in noble pursuits such as martial arts, physical fitness, language studies, philosophical inquiry, and the development of business acumen. Yet instead of pursuing these constructive endeavors, they are trapped in a mindless spiral of content. One cannot help but draw a parallel between this modern-day phenomenon and the decay and fall of Rome. Just as the decline of the Roman Empire was attributed to the decadence and moral corruption of its citizens, so too can the pervasive consumption of media be seen as a symptom of societal malaise. In both cases, it appears that individuals have become disconnected from the values and ideals that once drove them to greatness. Instead, they have been lulled into a state of complacency and distracted by the pursuit of immediate gratification. The cinema of the modern age is perhaps the most visible manifestation of this societal malaise. It is defined by commercial fiction that lacks any underlying moral message, save for the acceptance of the status quo and an unthinking drive towards progress. Video games, meanwhile, have emerged as the preferred pastime for young men, and have even extended their reach to other demographics such as older men, children, and women of all ages. In particular, young men are drawn to fighting games that evoke the same sense of masculinity experienced while watching fights, thrillers, dramas, or organized sports on television. Through these games, they can enter a virtual world and express their masculinity without the risks associated with real-life military service. It is a convenient option made possible by the technological innovations of the West, yet it has serious implications. By avoiding the challenges and discomforts of real life, men are robbed of the opportunity to develop the resilience and fortitude that come from facing adversity. This trend is not limited to men, however. Women, too, are increasingly drawn to the world of video games and mindless content. This phenomenon is symptomatic of a larger problem, a pervasive sense of ennui and aimlessness that has taken root in modern society. People have lost sight of what is truly valuable in life, and instead seek distraction and entertainment at every turn. It is not only schools that have failed to instill a sense of purpose and direction in young people. The media conglomerates, with their endless streams of mindless content, have played a significant role in contributing to this cultural malaise. They have created a world in which the pursuit of happiness is reduced to a never-ending quest for novelty and excitement. The consequences of this societal malaise are profound. We are witnessing the erosion of traditional values and the breakdown of social cohesion. Individuals are becoming increasingly isolated and atomized, lacking a sense of connection to their fellow citizens and to the larger project of building a just and prosperous society. If we are to reverse this trend and restore a sense of purpose and direction to our lives, we must first recognize the insidious influence of the media and take steps to reorient ourselves towards more constructive pursuits. In the modern age, many men find themselves amidst a great crisis, causing them to question their general perspective on life and even change their beliefs. Amidst a crisis like this, they ask themselves, "Why did this happen to me? I just wanted to be happy." These men fail to realize that the root of their problem is hedonism. When a man is devoid of purpose, he distracts himself with drugs and entertainment, failing to enter a state of deep work or an artistic flow state. In turn, he will be distracted by just about anything, lacking discipline early on. It is in the moment of crisis that a man must look beyond his immediate desires and embrace a deeper sense of purpose. When a man's calling is not to do important work but to be happy, he loses sight of the fact that even the simple things in life, such as eating an ice cream cone or talking to a friend, can bring about happiness. However, these activities do not exemplify the ideals of delayed gratification, and they fail to prepare a man for the challenges that he will face in the future. Self-improvement, therefore, is an ideology centered largely around abandoning instant gratification activities such as mindless consumption of media, substances, junk food, gossiping, and pornography. Instead, it is about embracing delayed gratification activities such as learning valuable skills like martial arts, instruments, sports, mechanical skills, and vocabulary, as well as meditation, betterment of physical fitness and bodybuilding, journaling, deep work, introspection, and the building of strong personal bonds characterized by discriminating the unfavorable people in life from those one would be better off keeping around. Men who seek to be happy fail to fall into the line of action and embrace an action-oriented life of action primacy. Instead, they fall into the world of ideas, where it is incredibly easy to disavow God, the universe, and fall into nihilism. Once rotten, the human brain cannot consume the beauty of the world, and will therefore become disenfranchised by it. Proto-absurdist despair is a natural consequence. It is in the pursuit of delayed gratification that one will find true inner peace and fulfillment. Only by embracing the journey toward self-improvement can a man truly find his sense of purpose and avoid the path towards nihilism and despair. In today's society, it is crucial for men to recognize the limitations of the pursuit of happiness alone and to strive for a more meaningful existence. In doing so, they will find a greater sense of fulfillment, happiness, and purpose in their lives. As Socrates once proclaimed, strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people. This quote succinctly underscores the disparity between truly exceptional individuals and those who remain mired in mediocrity. Individuals with strong minds channel their focus onto ideas and concepts, constantly seeking to comprehend the world on a profound level. They partake in intellectual discussions and debates, continuously pushing themselves and others to broaden their knowledge and understanding. Conversely, those with average minds tend to concentrate on the events that unfold around them, merely absorbing information without attempting to grasp its underlying implications. Lastly, individuals with weak minds indulge in petty gossip about others and engage in trivial conversations, lacking the depth of comprehension and analytical abilities requisite to partake in more significant dialogues. Verily, it is of great import to take heed of the fact that the society that is characterized by the supremacy of ideas, often deemed as an adversary to the society of traditionalism, which is marked by action, is marred not because it lays emphasis on intellectual thought, but because it restrains it. The human brain is not meant for the mere storage of information. Rather, it is purposed for the creation of original ideas and the connection of concepts. The philosophical notion of concepts such as Camus' absurdist concepts, Marcus Aurelius's Stoic concepts, Julius Evola's esoteric concepts, and the like, are reminiscences and perspectives. The modern society that emphasizes ideas accords great value to diverse thoughts and the acceptance of a wide range of beliefs. As one progresses up the ladder, from discussing people, who are the vessels of personality, to events, like the news cycle, to genuine ideas, such as philosophical discussions, the boldness for action increases. The veneration of people and current events is farther from the divine than the average interest in an idea-focused society. When someone departs from a society that values ideas, it is not always a step in the right direction. One may become more inactive than before, swayed by reactionary news, influenced by people of their own kind, and dedicating themselves to serving them, but failing to find balance. They may also become swayed by concepts such as the fight for social justice or romantic love. But as they are distant from the action-oriented world of their ancestors, they cannot find a way to bring about social change or find a partner, and thus fall into greater despair. Such a person is almost faithless, regardless of where they are positioned on the axis of faith, and is a pitiable sight in the modern world. Even the pursuit of self-improvement may be futile, as they have primed their minds against it, and the only recourse may be extended meditation or introspection to reprogram their thought processes, for there is no other way. The notion of isolating oneself from society to achieve mental clarity is an ancient one, rooted in the teachings of Buddhism. However, only recently have we begun to fully implement it, as there are compelling reasons to do so. The world of ideas is one in which the most recent calamity reported in the news has an impact on the consciousness of the populace for a fixed duration, dictated by those responsible for curating the news cycle, only to be promptly forgotten. Historical events are forgotten faster than they can be inscribed into history. The cycle of violence continues, feeding into the creation of even more news. It is a truly lamentable spectacle. To properly formulate and implement the tenets of self-improvement, including delayed gratification, one must recognize the span of human life. Where once it was typical to live to 50 or 60 years in a survivalist existence, modern medicine has extended lifetimes to 70 or 80 years, with some soon to reach 90 or 100. This means that it is increasingly common for individuals, particularly older women, to approach a century of life. Men in their 40s now often remind young people that they have a long life ahead of them, while those in their 60s emphasize that they still have a long way to go. This mode of thought is flawed, as it implies that living a long life with little to show for it is acceptable. Individuals over 30 years old should not be seeking minimum wage, unskilled jobs, regardless of their past mistakes or starting position in life. People over 40 should be able to own property and start families. Those over 50 should be able to live anywhere they please. Yet scenarios of old age and poverty in unison are commonplace, even the norm, worldwide. To truly appreciate one's life and earnestly consider its direction, one must perceive the present moment as a mere speck in time and view life from birth to unpredictable death as one unit, a collection of all that has occurred throughout life, characterized by significant factors such as spirituality, age, wisdom, and capacity, as well as by the bearing of children and one's impact on the world. When an individual realizes that life passes in a blink of an eye in comparison to the age of the universe, they begin to take planting trees more seriously, knowing that they will never rest in their shade. They respect the greater synchronicity of all things, and abandon political bickering, idle gossip, and harmful as well as arrogant people, acknowledging their time as valuable once more. In other words, if one adopts self-improvement, there is no yesterday or tomorrow. What one does today is what one will do for the remainder of their life. There are no skip days for physical exercise. One exercises daily. One does not skip church this week, as they may not have next week. One does not save to purchase a property. They buy it now while they can, while the market still exists, and while their nation and the state that propels it still exist. Every orgasm, near-death experience, injury, moment of happiness and glory, every tear, disaster and catastrophe, every kiss and breakup, every moment of anger, fury, sadness and despair happens and exists all at once. When the negative and positive values of life happen together, the weight always sums to zero. There will always be lows to pay for the highs and highs to reward making it through the lows. The string may be separated into 20 pieces, and not all of them will connect, and most of it won't make sense to you ever. But as long as 2 or 3 connect, it will be a satisfying ending for you. The human life does not adhere to the concept of Chekhov's gun. You may find a rock on the road to freedom that will never be used for anything, but it is only because it will never be used in your own life. God has a purpose for it, in another lifetime, with another person, and in another situation. When you recognize that the path before you has already been set, and that you are just one small cell in a vast, incomprehensible organism that is part of a divine purpose, you cease focusing on the small details and start comprehending how to be efficient and how to properly serve the system, just like a tiny bumblebee or a partition of your very own human body, like a tissue of muscle. And verily, when the sun hath set, and the day hath drawn to a close, the greatest sorrow of man shall be that he could not have led a myriad of lives at once, that he was born into this world ignorant of what was to come, and that he passed through childhood, adolescence, and into the modern era without true awareness, succumbing to the cyclical nature of the times until reaching the age of 40, 60, or even 80. But lo, when man attains enlightenment, he hath the power to lead countless others to the same state, and this is a greatness equal to that of living 1,000 lives concurrently. Through the improvement of oneself, one gains the power to change the course of others. One can eradicate the malignancy of modernity that doth infect one's own soul, and transform into a healthy cell for the betterment of the entire system. And if the system be healthy, it shall repay thee in kind, and if it be not, thou shalt have the power to pull it from its sickness and restore it to its former glory. Self-mastery is therefore key in any endeavor. One must look inwards first to determine what is worth pursuing.